We can no longer continue to make policy for ourselves, in our country, in our region, in our continent, on the basis of whatever support the Western world or France or the European Union can give us. It will not work. It has not worked, and it will not work.
Who would have thought that France was the welfare queen this whole time? As soon as Africa cut them off, nationalized their resources, and built their own social programs, the French government collapsed.
Guys, France is in such a mess. I'm telling you, France is literally collapsing. Ever since the countries of the western part of Africa withdrew the French forces and the French from the countries.
Africa has been sending France 80% of their revenue. 80% of the revenue the country made was to go to France. And that's what's been supporting France. Africa is at the point, so they said, we're not giving you shit else. We're not giving you no more money.
We can no longer continue to make policy for ourselves, in our country, in our region, in our continent, on the basis of whatever support the Western world or France or the European Union can give us. It will not work. It has not worked, and it will not work. Our responsibility is to charter a path which is about how we can develop our nations ourselves. It is not right for a country like Ghana, 60 years after independence, to still have its health and education budgets being financed on the basis of the generosity and charity of European taxpayers. By now, we should be able to finance our basic needs ourselves. And if we are going to look at the next 60 years as a period of transition, a period whereby we can stand on our own feet, our perspective has not to be what the French taxpayer decides to do with whatever surplus.
Who would have thought that France was the welfare queen this whole time? As soon as Africa cut them off, nationalized their resources, and built their own social programs, the French government collapsed. But the Western media will blame their budget deficit or the way Parliament is set up. But let me tell you what's really going on. Their prime minister had proposed taking 60 billion euros from their reserves to close the budget deficit. But keep in mind that the reserves are the African gold they pillaged, and that pipeline is closing since Burkina Faso nationalized their gold and pushed them out. So when they said let's use the reserves, all hell broke loose, and the prime minister was removed. Then France had an energy crisis. 70% of its electricity comes from nuclear power or uranium. Now Western media is going to tell you the price went up because of Russia's war in Ukraine. But Niger supplies 20% of all European uranium. So when Niger told Orano, a French nuclear company, to halt all production, they disrupted France's entire energy sector. Then while they will paint Africa as the place that needs foreign aid, what we have learned about the French economy is that they've been spending money like their colonies will always be there. They have been in Africa since the 1600s. All those people, all those resources that they stole. And apparently they don't know how to manage their money. So now that there is a global push to make Western economies more conservative, Western media blames France's social programs for their budget deficit. They want to use France as a test case for why their economy should be more capitalist, more corporate run, more conservative. But the real problem is that Europe has been a welfare state for centuries, supplied by Africa and its other colonies. And we have taken away the empire subsidy. So as Africa reclaims price, policy, and production, France won't fix its books by attacking welfare. They'll either have to exchange imperialism for fair trade or crumble altogether.
Guys, France is in such a mess. I'm telling you, France is literally collapsing. So the prime minister, who has barely been in his position for close to a month, has now resigned because they are completely ungovernable, because not a single person can agree, because the country is in such a critical crisis. Ever since the countries of the western part of Africa withdrew the French forces and the French from the countries, France has spiraled out of control. They are ungovernable. They are calling for Emmanuel Macron to go as well, but they will not find a solution, because the solution is they've got nobody to continue milking. because the Africans have literally kicked them out. And guys, people in Africa, this should be a roadmap of African countries, because you have seen the power of Africa. Africa basically is what feeds the colonial powers. And the moment you turn that tap off, they start to decline. They spiral so badly. Now France is ungovernable because they have so many strikes. People are protesting every single week. They are protesting because they cannot make ends meet. And the politicians still refuse to tell the actual French people that the problem stems from Africans kicking them out.
So apparently, France's government is on the brink of collapsing. And y'all know why? Because this has been going on over 50 years. Africa has been sending France 80% of their revenue. Yes, they was in a deal with France, and 80% of the revenue the country made was to go to France. And that's what's been supporting France. France cannot support itself. Africa has been supporting France. And Africa is at the point, so they said, we're not giving you shit else. We're not giving you no more money. And guess what? France is collapsing. They have no money for nothing. I really feel like colonization has come to a head. Like all that shit they've been doing, all the mistreatment and the stealing and the unfairness, it's just coming to a head. So you tell me for over 50 years, Africa has been supporting France, and Africa is poor as shit. Like they don't have nothing for themselves. They should be the richest country in the world because they got so many resources. They go to Africa, they steal their resources, they steal their money. Good for Africa.
So now that Africa, 14 countries in Africa has cut France totally off. They told France that they will not be sending them no 85% of their income. They will not be doing it. They've been doing that shit since 1959, and they will no longer be doing it. France thought that Africa was playing. And no, they weren't. Because now France, their economy is tanking big time. They are in such a deficit. Their country is just falling. It's burning right now. It hasn't even been 3 months, and they can't pay their bills. Those 14 countries in Africa is putting France fucking out of business. And that's only 14 countries. You know, Africa has 52 or 53. What is France going to do? And Africa don't even want to make no deals. They don't even want to work with them. They don't want to do shit. They're done. They're finished. It's over with. We don't want to talk to y'all no more. Them 14 countries are trying to get the other countries to just start pulling back too. So France is falling. France is falling, y'all.
Africa is the only reason why Western Europeans get to enjoy such a high quality of life, especially for France. They brag about being able to live well even though they don't have to work as hard as Americans, but they omit the fact that all that comfort they enjoy comes off of the back of African resources and labor. England, Portugal, Germany, Belgium, Italy, and France all made a massive scramble for Africa in the 1880s, and France by far still has their foot in their old colonial ways. Even though these African nations have declared their independence, France and a couple other countries are still exploiting them, and they have given nothing in return to these African nations. They have built very little in infrastructure and construction. They have given next to nothing compared to how much they have taken to support their ways. Out of the 8 African coups that have happened since 2020, 7 of them were from French colonies. The French do not know how to build. They do not know how to innovate. They do not know how to grow democracy in any part of the world, which is why for the past 60, 70 years, they have just had French puppets that were ruling these African countries that finally got sick of how they were being treated. China has only taken an interest in Africa for 30 or 40 years, yet they have built more industry and infrastructure than all of the other European countries combined. So of course, the African nations are going to have a much more favorable disposition towards China, since they are the ones who are actually building factories, roads, bridges, hospitals. China is actually divesting a lot of their own resources to make this possible. And you guys know how I feel about a lot of Chinese policy, but they did hit the nail on the mark when it comes to Africa. It is pretty clear that Russia's Wagner forces have had a lot to do with the coups that have taken place in Gabon, Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. And even though the Russians aren't trying to actually help anyone, I believe they are trying to foment chaos and destabilize a lot of positions in the West. This can be an overall good thing for Central Africa. Even though the Russians' goal is to create a lot of instability for the West, this instability can spread to a lot of other African countries, and that can actually hurt a lot of China's positions there. Make no mistake, despite what you're seeing in the media, the US will find a way to exploit whatever is happening in Africa. At first, they seemed that they were very pro taking down the Niger coup, and now they've kind of backed off, and they said that they are going to respect the current government. No, a lot of these African nations don't have a favorable viewing of the United States. The US will always find a way to profit off of whatever instability is caused. If there is going to be a disruption in the energy supply, I will bet you that the US will make money selling its liquid natural gas and oil. If there is going to be widespread war, the US is going to make a lot of money selling its weapons. I would not put it past the United States interests to have their cake and eat it too. They may be happy about China building all of this infrastructure because that means the US doesn't have to. It means the US doesn't have to invest in anything to make Africa more prosperous and rich, but they can reap all of the benefits for when that actually happens. In my opinion, I think that every Western interest should be kicked out of every African country and then reintroduced as a potential trading partner among peers with equal standing, instead of these African nations having to deal with the West like guaranteed exploiters.